Business optimism is soaring since Donald Trump took office, meaning business investment and jobs are probably about to jump as well. While media tries to pin Biden's lousy final numbers on inflation, retail sales, and jobs on Donald Trump, who was not in office, a new study by Wells Fargo finds that business sentiment just hit a series record high. In fact, it immediately jumped as soon as Donald Trump was elected. Meanwhile, a separate study from the Conference Board found optimism among CEOs surged to the highest level since the pandemic as our post-pandemic recovery finally comes into view, with CEOs now reporting they are ready to invest. Now, I'm old enough to remember when our aristocracy of tax-funded economics professors swore up and down that Trump would be an economic disaster. Apparently, few of them run a company. So what a difference a single election makes. In Wells Fargo's survey, 63% of companies expect an improved economy in the next 5 years. Under Biden, that was just 19%. As for what's driving it, 64% of companies expect more sales and the greater efficiency that comes with greater sales, so economies of scale. 27% cited reduced fuel costs, drill baby drill, and 27% identified stabilized interest rates. Now, this is interesting considering interest rates are actually historically high, thanks to the Fed's monumental screw-up dumping money into the economy post-COVID. So they're optimistic despite that. Now, the biggest remaining concerns include inflation, as you would expect, and concerns about finding decent employees, which is pretty much a permanent business concern. On the inflation, I've mentioned how the single biggest driver will be cutting government spending, so what DOGE is doing. Because every dollar the government spends competes with private sector spending. It competes with factories trying to expand, trying to get steel and workers that the feds were hogging. It competes with families trying to feed their kids. As for the workers, mass deportation means companies will have to go out and actually hire Americans for a living wage. Now, happily, if DOGE can actually cut hundreds of thousands of government workers, potentially double that when we include the pink-haired activists at NGOs who live off government grants, this adds a flood of workers available for warehouse jobs, construction jobs, or lawn mowing jobs vacated by deported illegals. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. In Trump's first term, he delivered the biggest boost to investments since the 1990s. In his 3 years before the pandemic, real private domestic investment jumped by 23%. Biden managed just 0.6% growth, 40 times less. Trump's first-term recipe, of course, was tax cuts, deregulation, and energy. This time around, Trump is going even bigger. His tax cuts on tips and overtime and mass deportation will make blue-collar work pay and consumers spend. His tax cuts on business and slashing red tape, driven by DOGE and recent Supreme Court decisions, those bring down costs and encourage even more investment. Meanwhile, DOGE-driven spending cuts can bring down inflation itself, which would let interest rates come down, which also boosts investment. Assuming Congress does not find a way to piss it all away. Even Trump's tariffs could boost investments, assuming the tax and regulatory environment improves enough to bring companies back to produce in America instead of just saddling consumers with a new tax. I mentioned the other day that Trump's got overwhelming voter approval on his economic agenda. Keep those voters pressuring their Congress things, and we could see an investment boom even bigger than Trump's first term. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.